For most of human history, matter was treated as the foundation of reality. Everything that existed seemed to be made of substance, solid, extended, occupying space. Even when physics moved beyond classical ideas, the intuition remained the same. Particles replaced objects, but they were still imagined as tiny things moving through space. Reality, in essence, was something material. Modern physics quietly challenges this assumption. As theories became more refined, matter began to lose its status as the most fundamental ingredient of the universe. In its place, something more abstract started to appear, something that could not be touched, weighed, or directly observed: information. At first, information seemed like a human concept, something used to describe systems, not something that existed independently. But physics began to treat information not as a description of reality, but as part of its structure. What a system can know, store, transmit, or lose became just as important as what it is made of. In quantum mechanics, this shift is unavoidable. The state of a system is not defined by solid properties, but by information about probabilities. Before measurement, a system does not possess definite values. What exists is a set of possible outcomes encoded mathematically. Reality behaves less like an object and more like a message that has not yet been read. This becomes even clearer, and information is lost. Black holes once posed a paradox that shook physics. According to classical reasoning, anything that falls into a black hole is gone forever. Matter disappears, but quantum theory insists that information cannot be destroyed. If information is lost, the laws of physics break. Reality becomes inconsistent. The fact that physics takes this problem seriously reveals something profound. Information is not optional. It is not a bookkeeping tool. It is something the universe refuses to discard. This forces a redefinition of what it means for something to exist. If information must be preserved, then reality is not only about substance. It is about relationships, distinctions, and structure. Two systems that differ only in information are physically different, even if their material components are identical. In this view, matter becomes secondary. It is a way information organizes itself. Particles are no longer fundamental objects, but stable patterns of information interacting with fields. What feels solid is what information looks like when it repeats consistently. The universe begins to resemble a process rather than a thing. Reality is not a static collection of material entities. It is a continuous exchange of information. Interactions do not just move matter around. They transform what can be known about a system. Time itself is affected by this perspective. The arrow of time may not be driven by motion or energy, but by information. As information spreads, correlations change, entropy increases. The future becomes distinguishable from the past not because time flows, but because information does. This reframes causality. Causes are not merely physical pushes and pulls. They are transfers of information. An event influences another because it constrains what can happen next. Reality unfolds as a sequence of informational updates. The human mind operates in a similar way. Experience is not a direct encounter with reality. It is an informational process. Sensory input is filtered, organized, interpreted. What we perceive is not the world itself, but a structured representation built from limited data. This does not mean reality is illusion. It means reality is mediated. What we experience is what information allows us to access. The universe may contain far more than we can ever register, but experience is shaped by what can be encoded, transmitted, and retained. Identity emerges from this process as well. The sense of self is not a substance hidden somewhere in the brain. It is a pattern of information, memories, expectations, narratives, continuously updated. When information changes, identity shifts. Stability is not essence, it is persistence of pattern. Physics and experience converge here. Both suggest that what appears solid is the result of information stabilizing into form. Remove the stability, and the form dissolves. What remains is process. This idea unsettles intuition because information feels abstract. We prefer to believe in things we can point to. But physics increasingly points away from objects and toward structure. Reality may not be built from matter at all, but from distinctions that matter makes possible. This does not reduce the universe to computation or simulation. It does not claim reality is artificial. It suggests something more subtle, that existence is defined not by what something is made of, but by how it is organized. When physics reaches this level, explanation becomes quieter. There are no images to rely on, no familiar metaphors, only relationships expressed mathematically. Reality becomes less visible, but more precise. The question then changes. Instead of asking what is the universe made of, physics begins to ask what can the universe know about itself, what information can be preserved, what correlations can exist, what structures remain consistent. This is not a loss of meaning, it is a shift of depth. Matter once felt like the ultimate answer. Now it feels like a surface. Beneath it lies something less tangible but more fundamental, a fabric not of substance, but of relation. Reality may not be solid at its core, it may be structured. And structure does not need weight to exist, it only needs consistency. Physics does not tell us what information ultimately is. It tells us that without it, reality cannot function. And when attention turns inward, the same pattern appears. Experience is not made of things, it is made of knowing, of distinction, of awareness responding to itself. Reality, inside and out, may be closer to information than intuition ever allowed. Still within,